Ethan Hart tightened his jacket against the crisp night air, his breath fogging slightly as he stood beneath the flickering neon sign of the lantern. The light sputtered, casting faint pink glows onto the wet sidewalk below. The place didn't look like much. Low-key, quiet. Just as Claire had described it. Still, something about walking into an unfamiliar bar to meet a woman he barely knew gnawed at the edge of his thoughts. He exhaled slowly, trying to shove the hesitation down deep. He lingered outside the door a moment longer, forcing himself to stop replaying the past like some broken loop. The end with Marissa had been ugly. No closure, just a crash. Shouting matches, cold silences, the slow erosion of trust. It had taken Ethan months to scrape himself out of that hollow feeling. Claire had appeared like some kind of algorithmic miracle on his phone screen, just when he needed it most. Her photos were warm, bright-eyed. Her messages sharp, witty, almost too in sync with his own humor and interests. Which was odd. But also flattering. And for a man still recovering from emotional fallout, flattering was enough. Ethan pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over the message thread. Claire's last text blinked at him. "Can't wait to meet you, Ethan. I feel like we already know each other." He let out a dry chuckle, shaking his head. Maybe he was just out of practice. He pocketed the phone and stepped through the door. Inside the lantern, warmth wrapped around him like a coat. The clink of glassware, low conversation, and a slow, meandering acoustic guitar created a disarming atmosphere. The lights were dim, the booths deep and private, perfect for quiet conversation. Ethan scanned the room, and there she was, Claire. She waved from a booth in the back, her smile immediate and unfazed, like she had been expecting him at that exact second. As he made his way toward her, she rose to greet him. Claire's presence was electric in a way that demanded notice without trying too hard. Her red sweater matched her lipstick precisely, a detail that echoed the photo from her dating profile. It should have felt staged. Instead, it just felt strangely cinematic. "Ethan?" Claire asked, though the confidence in her voice said she already knew. "Claire," he replied, offering a smile that tried to hide the static of nerves. "Nice to finally meet you." They shook hands. Her grip was firm. Confident. She slid back into the booth, motioning for him to sit. Conversation bloomed quickly, like dry tinder catching flame. Claire didn't hesitate, didn't falter, and matched Ethan beat for beat. She laughed at his dry sarcasm, retold his anecdotes with perfect mirroring, and even quoted an obscure line from The Man Who Fell to Earth that Ethan was sure no one under 40 had ever seen. He blinked. "How do you even know that movie?" "Please," Claire smirked. "David Bowie in a jumpsuit. That's essential cinema." It didn't feel like banter. It felt rehearsed. Perfect. But the warmth in her tone, the genuine way her eyes narrowed when she laughed, those small, human details, made Ethan shove the unease back down. They ordered drinks. Ethan opted for a whiskey sour, while Claire sipped a Pinot Noir, holding the stem lightly between her fingers. She leaned in as he talked, elbows on the table, giving him her full attention. Not the fake, obligatory kind, real attention, the kind that felt undeserved. "So, what is it you do again?" "Software," she asked, chin resting on her hand. "IT security," Ethan said. "Mostly back-end systems and a lot of snooping on people who forget their passwords." Claire grinned. "Snooping, huh? Dangerous." "Not as dangerous as matching with a stranger online," Ethan countered, raising his glass. Claire clinked hers against it. "Maybe. But you don't seem like the serial killer type." "That's exactly what a serial killer would want you to think." Her laugh rang out sharp and clear. They were only 2 drinks in when Claire began telling stories. But not just any stories, stories that mirrored Ethan's own life too closely. A shared obsession with vintage vinyl. A hiking trip gone wrong near Mount Baker. An ex who had been manipulative, toxic, and eerily similar to Marissa. We should compare playlists, Claire said, pulling her phone halfway out of her purse. But if you have more than one Coldplay song, this date is over. Ethan chuckled, pleasantly stunned. It felt uncanny. Too many coincidences, too many overlaps. But the way Claire tossed her hair, the rhythm of her voice, how effortlessly she navigated the conversation, it kept him locked in. Maybe this was what real chemistry felt like. Or maybe he just hadn't felt seen in too long. The bar around them grew louder, more bodies packed in, the music pulsing a little heavier. Ethan leaned closer to hear her better, and Claire responded by sliding her hand across the table, fingers brushing his. Her touch lingered. Just long enough to mean something. Ethan met her eyes. There was something unreadable in them, not soft, not coy. Steady. Intentional. Still, his heart thudded against his ribs. That touch was the first real signal of something. He didn't want to misread it. But Claire gave no mixed messages. It's getting loud in here, she said, casually glancing toward the bar where a group of guys were shouting over a pool game. My place is just a few blocks. If you're up for a nightcap. She said it like it was nothing. Like it didn't carry weight. Ethan felt it like a jolt. He swallowed, glanced at the rising crowd, then back at her. Claire's smile was still there. Still easy. Still warm. He tossed a few bills on the table, stood up, and offered her a hand. Lead the way, Ethan said, trying to match her confidence. As she slid past him and toward the door, Ethan missed the flicker in her eyes, just a flash, a glint like something sharpening. He didn't look back. He didn't notice the bartender watching them leave either. He was too busy feeling the heat of her hand in his. Too busy telling himself this was finally something good. Too busy ignoring that old, gnawing instinct clawing up from the depths of his gut. Not yet panic. Just static. Just noise. As Ethan Hart stepped through the door of Claire's apartment, the warmth hit him first. The scent of vanilla curled in the air like an invisible hand pulling him further inside. Soft jazz drifted from a record player spinning in the corner, a mellow trumpet dancing with the quiet hum of candlelight. The space was flawless, not just clean, but curated. Every throw pillow perfectly fluffed, every book on the shelf stacked with intention. Ethan took it all in, chest tight with a strange blend of awe and suspicion. Claire closed the door gently behind him. Make yourself at home, she said, already moving toward the coffee table. Ethan followed her into the living room, eyes scanning the navy blue couch that seemed barely used. A crystal decanter sat waiting on a silver tray beside two glasses, one already filled with amber liquid. Claire picked it up and handed it to him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Bourbon, right? Yeah, Ethan said slowly, taking the glass. Good memory. I listen, Claire replied. She sat down first, folding one leg beneath her, then slipped off her shoes with a sigh that felt practiced. You looked like you needed a drink at the bar. Figured I'd get ahead of it. Ethan chuckled and sat beside her, bourbon in hand. The couch was plush, deep enough to sink into, but firm underneath. Too perfect. The kind of furniture made to be admired, not lived on. Still nervous? Claire asked, tilting her head playfully. I wasn't nervous, Ethan lied. You were definitely nervous. Her laugh was easy, unforced. It was cute. He sipped the bourbon. Smooth, expensive. Stronger than he expected. The conversation flowed again, no lull in rhythm. But the dynamic had shifted. Claire laughed louder now, leaned closer. Her hand brushed Ethan's arm when she reached for her drink, twice. The second time, she left her fingers there a heartbeat too long. So, EJ, she said suddenly, swirling her wine with a smile. Ethan blinked. What? That was your nickname, right? EJ. You just look like one. His throat tightened. Only his dad and his sister ever called him that, and they hadn't in years. His ex never even knew it. Claire's smile didn't falter. Was I wrong? Did I offend the great Ethan Hart? No, it's just a name I haven't heard in a while. That's all. Then I'll stop using it. Unless you want me to keep it. Could be our little thing. She said it so smoothly he almost believed her. Almost. Ethan forced a chuckle and drank deeper, letting the warmth of the bourbon spread through his chest. When Claire stood and offered her hand, he took it without thinking. She led him to the bedroom. The space was dimly lit by more candles. The scent of something floral mixed with the lingering vanilla. The bed was made, not a wrinkle in the sheets, and the linens looked like they belonged in a boutique hotel. He hesitated at the threshold, but Claire turned and kissed him, soft and insistent. Clothes loosened, kisses deepened. The hesitation dulled. Then Claire pulled back, lips barely brushing his, and said, "You ever try something a little fun?" She reached into the nightstand and produced a pair of metal handcuffs, twirling them on her finger like it was a game. Her eyes gleamed with something Ethan couldn't quite place. He laughed, uncomfortable. I don't know. Not really a 50 Shades guy. Claire leaned in and whispered, "Come on. You trust me, right?" Her tone was teasing, but her gaze held his. "Yeah," Ethan said slowly. "Sure." He lay back. The sheets were cool against his skin. Claire moved with a practiced grace, cuffing his right wrist to the bedpost. Still laughing, still playful. Then the left. Click. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Ethan gave a light tug. The cuffs held firm. Cold steel. Not padded or novelty. His pulse quickened. He looked up. Claire hadn't moved. She was sitting on the edge of the bed now, watching him. The smile was gone. Her voice came quiet and flat. "This was never about you, Ethan." She leaned in, her expression unreadable. "It was about what you could get me." Ethan froze. The bourbon soured in his throat. The candles flickered. And everything changed. Claire crossed her legs slowly at the foot of the bed, swirling her wine glass with the kind of idle grace that only made Ethan Hart more aware of how trapped he was. The metal cuffs bit into his wrists as he twisted them instinctively, testing the limits of the frame, of her patience, of his own panic. The mattress creaked beneath him, and every breath came harder than the last. "You should stop struggling," Claire said, her voice as smooth and still as the wine in her glass. "You're just going to bruise yourself." Ethan stared at her, trying to regulate his breathing, trying not to let her see how fast his thoughts were spiraling. Claire took a sip from her glass and finally met his eyes. The warmth from earlier had evaporated. Her tone dropped into something colder, deliberate. "I didn't pick you at random, Ethan. I watched you. For months." Ethan froze. "What are you talking about?" "Your route to work. Your favorite park. That tiny coffee place you always stop at on Tuesday mornings, the one with the lemon scones. You always sit in the same seat, facing the window." She stood, slow and measured, pacing the length of the room. The candlelight carved shadows along the walls. Ethan followed her with his eyes, every word she spoke unraveling whatever composure he had left. "You bumped into me at Rust Records. Remember that? You apologized and tried to hand me the Coltrane album I dropped. That wasn't coincidence. I planted it. I wanted to see how polite you'd be." Ethan's mouth opened but no words came. He couldn't recall a single thing about that encounter feeling off. But now, hearing it dissected so cleanly, I know your schedule better than you do, Claire continued, almost clinical. You made it easy. All I had to do was mimic your interests. Feed the algorithm. Let you think you were the one doing the choosing. Ethan pulled against the cuffs again, harder this time. Why? Why me? Claire stopped pacing. Her eyes locked onto his. Because you're connected to Nathan Cole. The name hit him like a slap. He blinked. Nathan? The guy from my office. He's not just some guy from your office, Claire said, voice sharpening. He destroyed my life. Cost me my job, my reputation, everything. And no one ever held him accountable. Ethan's chest tightened. He remembered Nathan vaguely mentioning a messy fallout with someone at his old firm. Something about false accusations. He hadn't paid attention. You were just the perfect conduit, Claire said, almost smiling again. You tagged him in photos. Mentioned him in texts. Shared location data without even realizing it. All I had to do was wait and collect. Ethan shook his head slowly, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know. I had no idea. I know, Claire said. The words didn't soothe. They cornered him further. Claire, Ethan began, struggling to keep his tone level. You don't have to do this. I'm not your enemy. I'll help you if that's what you want. Just let me go, and we can figure this out together. Claire moved to the side of the bed, resting her elbow on the bedpost just inches from Ethan's face. Her body language was relaxed, her stare anything but. She studied him like she was waiting for him to flinch. Together, she repeated softly, almost like she was tasting the word. There was a beat. A pause that stretched too long. Then, with a sigh, her expression softened just slightly. Her voice lost some of its sharpness. Maybe there's a way you can still be useful. Ethan latched onto it like a lifeline. Yes. Anything. I can call him. Set up a meeting. You don't have to go through with whatever you planned. Just let me handle it. Claire tilted her head. For a split second, something unreadable passed through her eyes. Then her smile turned. It wasn't warm. It was glass-sharp. Without warning, she reached for the cuffs and twisted them cruelly, yanking Ethan's wrists against the iron bars. Pain shot up his arms. He winced, biting back a cry. No, Ethan, Claire hissed, the mask fully gone now. You'll do it my way. Ethan gasped, his shoulders pressing back into the bed. Claire stood tall and walked to her dresser, the heels of her feet clicking lightly against the hardwood floor. She opened a drawer and pulled out a battered black phone, the kind sold at gas stations and rarely used for anything legal. She turned and tossed it onto the bed. It landed beside Ethan's leg, screen cracked but still lit. Text messages lined the screen, a conversation thread. He craned his neck to read them. Then froze. The name at the top of the screen, Nathan Cole. The messages, detailed, casual, damning. He'll be there tonight. Just wait for my signal. We need to make it look like an accident. Don't worry, Ethan. No one will trace this back to us. What the hell is this? Ethan whispered, horrified. It's what the police will find if anything goes wrong tonight, Claire said calmly, returning to her armchair near the corner of the room. Texts that tie you to every part of it. You're not just the bait. You're the guy who made the trap. Ethan stared at her, mouth dry, words caught behind clenched teeth. Claire took another sip of her wine. Her eyes never left him. If I get caught, she said softly, almost kindly, you go down with me. She smiled again. You're not just the idiot who got caught. She set her glass down with a delicate clink. You're the accomplice. Ethan Hart lay stiff against the mattress, his arms burning, his heart trying to punch its way out of his chest. The metal cuffs dug deeper into the raw skin of his wrists with every twitch. From the floor below, a dull mechanical buzz echoed upward, the sound of Claire's front door unlocking. He closed his eyes for half a second. That buzz had a finality to it. Claire leaned over him, breath laced with sweet red wine, her lips inches from his ear. "Time to finish the story you started," she murmured. The words struck like ice water. Ethan's eyes flew open. Claire straightened, walking with slow, deliberate steps toward the intercom on the hallway wall. Every step she took rang through Ethan's skull like a countdown. Desperation flooded his body. Ethan twisted his torso sharply and yanked at the frame, his shoulder screaming in protest. He planted his feet against the mattress and used every ounce of leverage to wrench the headboard with violent rhythm. The bedframe groaned. He didn't stop. Sweat rolled down his face. His breath came in shallow gasps. Each pull against the bolt drove more pain into his spine and shoulders, but he welcomed it. Pain meant progress. Pain meant time wasn't up yet. Then, a crack. The top bracket bent. Another pull, harder now. The steel squealed and popped. The bar snapped free with a loud metallic groan, sending him crashing sideways into the edge of the bedframe. His left wrist was still bound, but he had range. Not much, but enough. Claire turned, confused by the noise. Her brow furrowed. "Ethan?" He didn't answer. He lunged, dragging the half-dismantled bedframe with him. His free hand fumbled across the nightstand until it closed around the base of a heavy ceramic lamp. The cord yanked from the wall with a sharp snap. Claire took one step back. Too late. With all his strength, fear-fueled and fraying, Ethan swung the lamp sideways, aiming low. It connected with a sickening crunch against Claire's temple. Her eyes widened, the glass of wine slipping from her hand and shattering on the hardwood as her knees buckled. She collapsed. Ethan stared down, gasping. Claire lay still, her crimson sweater stained darker where the wine had spilled. He scrambled up, dragging the twisted bedframe behind him like a shackle. Every step was a clumsy stumble. At the dresser, Ethan flung open drawers until he found Claire's phones, her main one, unlocked with a quick Face ID scan while she lay unconscious, and the burner. His fingers trembled as he thumbed through the burner's inbox. There it was. The conversation thread. The fake messages to Nathan Cole. He opened the most recent one. "You ready?" "On my signal." Ethan tapped furiously. "Change of plans." "Don't come." "Too risky." "We'll explain later." He hit send. Watched the message go through. A green checkmark. That was all he had to go on. His pulse still roared in his ears. Switching to Claire's main phone, he dialed 911. He forced a rasp into his voice, something deeper, something panicked. "There's a violent fight happening. Woman screaming. Sounds like something's breaking." He gave Claire's address. Said nothing else. Hung up. The sound of distant sirens wailed faintly, growing. Ethan spun toward the window, unlatched the lock, shoved it open. Cold night air slammed into him. He heaved himself through the narrow opening, wincing as the dangling cuffs scraped the frame. The rusted fire escape groaned under his weight. He moved fast despite the pain, climbing down one shaky step at a time, until his feet hit concrete in the back alley. His shirt was soaked through. Blood dotted his sleeve. His legs trembled. He leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. Trying not to collapse. At the alley's mouth, he crouched low behind a dumpster and peered out. Blue and red lights burst onto the street. A fleet of police cruisers screeched to a stop. Officers stormed the entrance, radios crackling. The lead cop shouted orders. Neighbors appeared at windows, curtains drawn back by cautious fingers. A battering ram struck Claire's door once, twice, 3 times. The apartment was breached. Ethan watched, heart hammering. Minutes crawled by. Then 2 officers exited the building, holding Claire upright between them. Her head lolled slightly, but her eyes were open, half-lidded. Not unconscious. Not confused. She saw him. Even from the alley, Ethan could feel the weight of her gaze. A 3rd officer followed with Claire's handbag, half spilled from the force of their entry. Papers tumbled out. Dozens of fake IDs. Disposable phones. Printed photographs. Men. Faces labeled in red ink. The next name on her list. He didn't want to know. Claire smirked as the officers pushed her into the squad car. Not surprise. Not defeat. Satisfaction. This hadn't been revenge. It was business.